In this video we're going to be looking at part 1 questions for May 2021 in the IELTS speaking test. I want to teach you what you should do with the list of current questions in the test. If you want a PDF version of current questions, please look below in the description of this video. My first suggestion is that you use these questions to get familiar with the test, especially if you haven't taken a test in the past. You want to be familiar with the style of part 1 questions, and by looking at current questions, this will help you to be familiar with this part of the test in terms of the sort of questions that get asked and also some of the topics. We're going to be looking at the current questions today. We're going to work on some vocabulary to answer these questions, and in particular I want to show you how you can build vocabulary that's meaningful for you. We're going to look at some strategies to extend answers and also how we can answer different types of questions in the test. So in terms of getting familiar with the current questions, one of the things that I suggest you do is just run through some of the questions and see what you notice. Look at the topics and think about vocabulary for topics. One thing that I found is that for every topic there seems to be at least 1 or 2 questions about like or dislike. Now this means we should be prepared well to answer these types of questions, and one of the ways we can be prepared well is to have vocabulary to rephrase like and dislike. This makes sense since we're going to be answering so many questions about it. So when it comes to like, we can rephrase this word to show the examiner our vocabulary range, but also show some talent with vocabulary. So when it comes to liking language, we can impress the examiner by upgrading this word to things like keen on, big fan of, really into, makes my day, lights up my life. Note that most of these are idiomatic expressions, and these help you get to 7 and above. When we come to disliking language, we can just use negatives of those liking phrases we used, like not keen on, not a big fan of, and then we can also use some other words like detest, can't stand, not my cup of tea. Let's now look at a question such as what kind of food you like, and look at a couple of strategies we can use to answer this question. The first strategy is to divide our answer into 2 or 3 parts based on a type of food. I've selected 3 types of food that I like: Italian, Korean and Mexican food. Here's my answer. Note the way that I've put each of these types of food in their own sentence and explained why I like them. I start my answer with an introductory sentence. Well, there are 3 kinds of food that I'm really keen on. The one that I like best is Italian food because it's full of tomatoes and they are very nutritious. I also like to eat Korean food as it's very spicy and I enjoy spicy food. I'm also kind of partial to Mexican food, which I find spicy and full of flavor. Now, another great strategy is to answer the same question but using a different strategy of general to specific. In this answer, I'm going to start off with a general food of seafood, then get more specific, saying Japanese seafood, and then finally down to an example of sashimi. Well, I have to say that I'm a big fan of seafood. In particular, I really like to eat Japanese seafood because it's always so fresh. For instance, sashimi is delicious because the raw fish is so flavoursome. So I've shown you 2 different strategies to extend your answers. First, divide your answer into 2 or 3 parts. Second, answer from general to specific. I've got another 3 strategies. If you want to look at those, I'll put a link to a video in the description below this one. That'll show you the depends strategy, the use of a concession, and also ways you can start your answer by actually avoiding answering the question. I've shown you some of the common types of questions in your test, liking and disliking questions in particular. If you'd like to see some of the other common types of questions that get asked in your test, I have a separate video. I'll put a link in the description. So just to summarize, if you're trying to study at home and prepare for your test, I suggest you look at the following things. Get familiar with the test. Look at current questions and be familiar with those. Build vocabulary for current questions and current topics. Work on strategies to extend your answers. You want to have about 3 or 4 sentences on average in part 1. Learn to answer different types of questions, especially liking and disliking questions, because they account for over 25% of the first part of your test. Check out some of the videos in the description, particularly if you'd like to work some more on strategies to extend answers and different types of questions. If you want to see current questions, I'll put a PDF for you in the description below. Best of luck preparing for your test. Alright, so I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you found it useful. If you did, make sure you've liked it, and even better, subscribe to me so that you'll get my upcoming videos about part 2 questions, part 3 questions, and also some skills and strategies for taking the IELTS speaking test.